Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Building Success, Loving Life. This is episode 9, and today I want to talk about some habits that I've implemented over the year that have really helped with work life balance, or I should probably say work life integration. I talked about it a few episodes back about what I call PMP, that we need to take care of our physical self, our mental self, and our passions. So that is our PMP. And I pride myself on having found work life balance quite a few years ago in the midst of having an extremely demanding job, traveling. I was a mother of a couple of young girls. I was a wife. I was very active in the school. So despite all of that, I was able to find balance because I've made some very, very conscientious choices about how I wanted to live my life. And so that's what I wanted to share today. I've got many, 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 but today I've chosen actually just 10 that are physical and mental. And then probably two bonus things at the end. So let's start off really with things I put into place with regards to my physical health over the years that had a very, very positive impact. So, and some of these might not seem particularly like rocket science, but actually, I find it's the simplest things when we choose to implement very simple things that they are most sustainable. That is why I have made these things habits and I've been able to keep them up over the years. So the first one is walking. And a lot of people say that walking 10,000 steps a day should really be the goal. Ideally, yes. I think that's great. And I think it's great to have those goals. But when you're commuting to work and when you're doing a lot of sitting, and maybe you're sitting in public transportation or in your car for, a good amount of time, getting in 10,000 steps a day is not always possible. My goal personally is 5,000 steps. And I try to aim for 10,000 on the weekend, but during the weekdays, 5,000 steps is the objective. And I find that if I take a short walk during lunch, if I usually take the subway to work, if I'm sitting at the back of the subway and I know the exit is at the front, all of those small things add up. So 5,000 steps a day. The second habit that I've put into place that's had a huge impact is reducing. Now, I'm not saying eliminating, I'm saying reducing dairy, gluten, and alcohol. I'm personally somebody I cannot cut out those things. I love dairy too much. I like bread products and I like having a glass of wine, but reducing those things so that I'm not having bread 3 times a day, but only once. Or I'm not having pasta several times a week. It's going to be only once. Dairy was also a big topic because I live in France. There's a lot of dairy products, and dairy is usually a part of every single meal. So reducing the dairy products to only once a day has also been very, very beneficial. Also, the alcohol, I limit it to usually, except on a special occasion, Friday night and Saturday night. So what I've done here is not telling myself I can't have things and adding some restrictions on myself. I'm just simply limiting because I know that those things, when I consume too much of them, I'm bloated, my digestion is off, and I just feel lethargic. And actually, I don't sleep that well. So I allow myself those things. I've just slightly reduced it. The third thing when it comes to my physical health is shifting my bedtime. So when I was young, I used to go to bed at 11:30 or 12. We'd either watch TV late or, I don't know, play video games when I was younger. But what I found is shifting my bedtime, and keep in mind that I live in France, so everything is a little bit later than the US. For example, our news starts at 8 and not 6. So going to bed really late, like 11:30 or 12, is usually, I would say, quite typical. I started going to bed at 10 or 10:30 and getting up at 6. So that's 8 hours of sleep, and just shifting that back, actually just an hour or an hour and a half. I can't even tell you why or describe exactly what happened, but my sleep got so much better. Also helped cutting down the gluten, the dairy, and the alcohol, but still, those two are very combined, but my sleep is amazing. The fourth change or habit that I've made now to my health is I do fast. Now, I'm not a huge, advocate of everybody fasting. There are certain cases where you should and certain cases where you shouldn't. But generally, for many years, I fasted 16 hours a day. So that means after dinner in the evening, I would not eat again until lunch the next day. So I did that for many years and it served me well. But I got to the point where 16-hour fast was way too long. So now I try to do a 12-hour fast or a 14-hour fast. Of course, I drink water, tea, black coffee during that time, but no food. And that actually gives my body time to digest properly and also rejuvenate all of those cells. So fasting, it's not something that I'm recommending everybody should do. You should look into it before you start any kind of fasting habit. But for me, it was extremely, extremely beneficial to my health and to my mental clarity. So I still fast. I'm not, dogmatic about it. It depends how I feel. It depends what I ate the day before. But it has had such positive health benefits that it's something that I love doing and I continue doing. It's been about 10 years now. And the last physical habit that I've put into place as I've gotten older that has definitely helped me with my work-life balance and feeling great as I age is strength training. So I used to be a very avid runner. I ran for many, many years. But the strength training has really made the biggest difference in my body shape. So it's adding muscle, it's adding a little bit of muscle, and that body shape it's actually built my confidence. I'm strong, I'm lean, and it was just, as much as I still love running and I do it, but the strength training as I've gotten older has been amazing. So those are the 5 physical habits. But it's not just the physical habits that had a huge impact on the balance in my life. It's also the mental ones. So let me just go through the 5. So the first one is asking for feedback at work. I think it's very important to be open to feedback at any age. Okay, I'm currently the CEO of a company, and I'm still asking my colleagues for feedback, in an important meeting or an important communication that has to go out. Maybe something, I'm asking for feedback before I have to do something, maybe not much fun. That's maybe a little bit delicate. But asking for feedback, I would say it's a mental shift that has constantly kept me learning, kept me tuned in to what's going on around me. And it also keeps me humble. So as much as I like to think that, I know how to do things well, asking for feedback, it's actually a very good reality check. And I love learning and growing. So that's the first mindset habit that I've implemented. The second one, also when it comes to mindset, is social media usage. I have reduced my social media usage significantly, and I've curated my social media feed. So let me just give you an example. So a few years ago, I wanted to lose weight. And so I'm following on my social media a lot of people who are either very, very thin, probably, not realistically, don't have realistic body types, or following programs. And my social media feed was probably 80% around losing weight. And I curated it, which means I cleaned it up. I unfollowed any accounts that didn't make me feel good or that just were no longer aligned with my values. Because keeping up a social media feed where I'm constantly being fed information about losing weight, that is reinforcing a self-image that I didn't want to have. So social media usage is a big one. Now, this point is very, very basic, and it's something that we put into place probably about 6 or 8 months ago with my family. So I live in France, my family lives in the US, and we love Wordle. So if you don't know what Wordle is, it's a New York Times game where you have to find a word that it's 5 letters and you get 6 tries. And so it's extremely fun. And there's just one game a day. And so what we do with my family around the world is we all play the game and then we share it in our WhatsApp group. We share the results. So you can share the results to say if you found the word in 3 times, in 4 tries, in 5 tries, or in 6 tries. And it's this daily, I would say, small competition. But what's so great about it is that I'm connecting with my family literally every single day. We don't have to call each other, but we're always going to find 1 or 2 minutes to go onto WhatsApp and share our Wordle results. And it's been amazing because now, like, my brother does it. He lives on the other side of the United States. My niece does it. She's 12. It's just, my husband does it. It's just so much fun, those few minutes of daily connecting with family who are so far away. So that's tip number 8. 9 is also something that's really, I would say over the past year or two, that's really pushed myself out of my comfort zone. And this goes back to my podcast episode number 1 about daily dare. So pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I make a point now to talk to people whom I don't know. Now, many of you will probably say, well, I do that all the time. Well, for me, I'm actually an introvert, and spontaneously going up to people that I don't know initially was very hard. So I make it a point now to talk to people on planes. I talk to people if I'm standing in line, for example, at the coffee shop. Recently, I was in an airport lounge. We struck up a conversation with the woman sitting across from me. We ended up having so much in common. We talked for 2.5 hours, but it's been such a breath of fresh air to reach out, to connect. And it was something that I felt I needed after COVID. After COVID, when we felt, we were just so in our own little family bubble, the reaching out and the questioning and finding something to connect on with strangers has been so refreshing for me. Number 10. Now, this is also, I would say, something that wasn't easy, that I learned through coaching, but it has taken such a weight off my shoulders, and that is accepting people for exactly who they are. Not trying to change them, never judging them. And I'll just give you an example is, even just my husband, just trying to change small things, well, why don't you pick up this or why don't you do that? Those small things, they wear on you. And it's the same thing for my kids. My kids are grown now. And so, obviously they know what they need to do in life. But finding myself saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And now I've just accepted them exactly for who they are, with all of their strengths and their weaknesses and flaws, just like I have very many, like everybody else. Accepting people for who they are 100%. It's actually wonderful. It's so wonderful. No longer with any kind of judgment, no longer feeling annoyed with people, no longer feeling stressed. It's just actually taken so much pressure off of my shoulders. So those are my top 10 habits. Now, the other two are more, I want to say kind of bonus habits that I want to talk about briefly. So the first one is, so earlier I talked about PMP, so physical, mental, and passion. And I want to take a moment to talk about my passion and why it is so important. And my passion is golf currently. Could change one day, but right now, and I would say for the past 2 or 3 years, it's been golf. And the reason why it's been so important to my balance is that it gives me something to focus on that's mine, where I'm improving, where I'm learning, where I can do better. I'm outside getting fresh air. It's an activity that we share with my husband, that we share with friends. And initially, I felt that I thought it was going to be really, really boring. But today, I literally look forward to it. Every single day, I look forward to Saturday and Sunday so that I can play golf. Now, I'm recording this podcast during the month of February. So golf season here where I live is starting soon. We started to play this weekend. I take lessons also, and just finding something that just interests you so much that you want to do. It also, I find, adds balance when you have bad days or maybe when work isn't going great. Recently, I talked in one of my episodes about being in a rut at work. And I find that having passion outside of work has given me that balance that I need. So find your passion. And I would encourage you to try new things, and it will change. My passion for a long time was running. I ran so many races. That's all I wanted to do. I was a runner and I ran 5 days a week. Well, now it's golf. So find a passion and it will definitely add that balance. And maybe just the last thing, and it's coaching. Coaching has changed my life. I would not be here talking to you today through this podcast. I would not be starting a business soon in coaching. I would definitely not be putting myself out there if it wasn't for life coaching. And life coaching has changed my life because once again, we work on thought work. We work on goals. We work on smashing limiting beliefs. A couple weeks ago, we talked about thoughts that your brain, that self-talk and thoughts that your brain are feeding you. And life coaching also helps manage that self-talk. So I'm here today because I was a client of coaching for several years, and it's also had a huge impact. So I would encourage you all to think about your physical health, think about your mental health, find a passion, think about life coaching also, if it's right for you. And I'm wishing you a fantastic week, and we will talk soon. Take care.